Hey, RetconRaider here, with special thanks to the Raiders, the fine folks who help make these videos possible, including but not limited to Dragon Matrix 7, Mathew Smith, Revenant, Alois, Drakiith, Eerie V23, EgonAlter, Emile, Exsellsior, Gottlieb, Kazorm, Nathan Welch Jr., RandomPassrby, RobbyB, Tomasz Piątkowski, Triphoppenskip, and Valinrook. Thanks for your support, guys. That said, let's get started. And welcome back to Pathfinder, Wrath of the Righteous. As today, I believe we're pushing on to the end of the Desolate Hovel. Gotta say, this whole thing went a lot faster and easier than I was really expecting it to. But I guess that's a testament to the oddly effective builds I've kind of fallen into. That said, let's push on, see what other secrets we can unearth. Hopefully find a few answers. And look at that, we've got a crystal projector. That's a good start.
Day 4, Frost 4632. Experiment, wounded demons. Subject, a Lilitu and several lesser demons maimed in battle with crusaders. The fusing of body parts of different life forms has been done many times before, and is of no interest to me. The focus of this experiment is the fusing of souls. Desired result, to preserve the specific abilities of the donor subjects in the final fused entity. The idea is promising and may influence my other research.
Right. So, aside from giving us a vague origin story for Flock of Seagulls here, that also further emphasizes that Aurilu's main focus is on fusing powers, or transplanting powers, from planar beings into mortals, because that's basically what she did to herself. And, in theory, us as well. Oh no, stupid Suture. He forgot. He clean forgot. We have abyss barriers in this place. Demons can cross them, but others can't. Clever. Yeah, I can't do the accent, but I'm trying. But you can get through if you have the key. Here, take it. Okay, well, just real quick, you did, in fact, tell us about the barriers. This just implies you had the key the whole time, and deliberately withheld it. Though, to be fair, I imagine there were very specific things he wanted us to see before we progressed too deep. The lock itself has been battered by someone's desperate efforts to open it, but the door is sealed shut. Interesting. There is actually a room back there. We just can't get into it. That's like the door back in Horgus Worm's Manor, which does seem to imply we have to come back here later. Optional boss, perhaps? Note fragment from Aurilu's laboratory. Vex Godglove, send me. Nora the historian emerges with an unexpected suggestion from behind the commander's back. This is just the sort of situation where ingenuity and knowledge of the enemy will be more useful than swords and armor. While she speaks, she thinks, I need to prove myself. Which does take on something of a different meaning, now that we know she was working against us, at least up until our confrontation with her. Shortly after this, actually, yeah, because this was right before Leper's Smile, midway through Act 2, and then we confronted her right after the Leper's Smile incident, at which point we convinced her to swap sides. Ah, the Lexicon of Paradox, I presume. That is somewhat conspicuous. A ripped book lies in the center of the room. Beneath the title in large letters, Lexicon of Paradox, are lines of text written in hasty, bold script. A shimmering purple haze rises from the pages. You are about to step over the threshold when the haze glows brighter. The power within you responds, roiling in agitation. But you feel no sense of danger. Rather, it's as though you are experiencing a chemical reaction to this unknown phenomenon. I think it's pretty clear that this is exactly what Arilu wanted us to find. Which does give me pause. You're distracted by a rustling sound and the heavy thud of ungainly footsteps. The Dretch looks decidedly pitiful up close. Without the crude stitching that crisscrosses his skin, it seems his body would simply fall to pieces.
So you made it to our treasure trove. Why not take a treasure for yourself? This is knowledge and power. Right now it's nothing, but it will become what you want it to be.
The Dretch points at the book. His voice is laden with strange yearning. He looks at the purple shimmer and can't take his eyes off of it for several seconds. Yeah, I will definitely do that. But before I do, you mind if I ask a few questions?
Go and ask them then. I don't have all day.
Okay, well, let's start with this. What kind of power are we talking about here?
This book is an old notebook for recording experiments. The power is the result of one of those experiments. My lady decided to bind it to the pages for some reason. It's the ultimate convergence of theory and practice, savvy? She gave a lot to learn how to cultivate and strengthen souls, and this is the result.
My advice is to burn that book, and that demon, and this whole laboratory, and then find Arilu and burn her.
Opinion noted and promptly ignored. Thank you, Regil. So this thing's incredibly powerful, but you're just letting me take it?
As if one mutilated Dretch could stop you. That's not it. My lady knew that sooner or later, someone would come for the book. She told me not to interfere. She doesn't tell me her reasons. She said to come here and wait, to make sure that the gift finds its owner. That's what I've done. She also told me not to hide from whoever comes, so I haven't.
You know, this could be like a Guardians 2 scenario. Multiple experiments, and then she waits to see which one comes to claim the prize. What kind of experiments are we talking about here?
All of them. Rifts, mythic powers, planar magic, transformation, hibernation. All them things that I obviously know a lot about. You've seen the lab, of course. I also know that the book contains everything about her work on the world wound. It's a pity. The book's looking worse for wear. Who knows what notes are still left inside?
Yeah, I'd wager that anything that we could actually use to disrupt her plans has been carefully removed. She's obviously been keeping tabs on us for quite some time. So tell me about the Canabris incident. You and Arilu dropped me off there right before Discari attacked, and then you were standing there on the sidelines ready to toss me a demon-slaying crossbow. What's up with that?
You're a shrewd one, aren't you? Nothing gets past you, does it? He wants details, he says. I was disguised as a halfling, yes. Did I have to drag your body to the Crusaders? I did. Did I then have to slip you a weapon? I did. Do you think I'd have managed all that if I'd been gallivanting around Canabris in my own skin? As to the purpose of the whole performance, don't ask me. I know nothing. My lady don't bother sharing such details with me.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. Arilu does seem like the type to compartmentalize. Alright, thanks. I appreciate the answers.
That's good. That's good indeed. Knowledge leads to progress, eh?
What a charming demon. He certainly does not wish us any harm. There's no reason at all for us to doubt his words. There is no possible way that this book could be a nefarious trap. Not in the slightest.
Yeah, I mean, I don't doubt that, D, but, from Vex's perspective, Arilu and Suture have really done nothing but help us, at least short-term. They saved us from dying a couple of times, and have since been sort of nurturing and teaching us to master our powers in indirect ways. We will take the book for now. We're obviously not going to leave that sort of power just sitting on the table. But we'll be wary. We're using this for ourselves. If she ever inevitably ends up crossing us, then all bets are off. Your fingers barely graze the book when the purple glow flares brightly, and a series of inscriptions, diagrams, and sketches flash by, imprinting themselves in your memory, as if you've always known them. Power fills you, just as wrathful and overwhelming as in the battle for the Wardstone, or the moment you acquired the Sword of Valor.
Discari's here. Discari himself. Blimey! One minute we had a dragon, the next, bam, she was gone. What are you gonna do? Fight or flee? If fleeing's your plan, let me help you out. I've got a scroll here with a good protective spell.
The halfling's armor is splashed with blood, and he is armed to the teeth, with a sword, a blade, and a hatchet on his belt, and a crossbow on his back. His voice sounds familiar to you. Right, because he was the one who dropped me off here at the festival in the first place. I don't suppose you could toss me a weapon of some sort, preferably of the demon-slaying variety?
Sure thing. Here, take this. Best crossbow I've got. The person who made it said it could pierce the hide of a demon lord even.
The halfling holds out the crossbow.
Good luck! Try not to get eaten now!
The halfling's words are drowned out by a terrible rumbling and a rustling of countless tiny wings.
Yes, very good. A dose of bravery or a bit of honor. It could be nothing else. Or perhaps his instincts are hinting.
Arilu trails off.
Milady, this creature's about to die. Shouldn't you... That's it. I've done as she asked. Now I can return to my lady.
The Suture looks at you with a strange expression. Envy, sorrow, yearning, understanding? You can't be sure. Because he is also one of her experiments. We might actually have a lot in common with him. Similar experiments, but we're just refined and further along. It does make me wonder if there are other experiments wandering around out there too. Others that might try to claim the same prizes that we are currently collecting. Not too far off from the original Baldur's Gate. Why did Arilu want me to shoot Discari back in Canabris? Isn't he her patron? Doesn't she kind of, like, work for him?
She needed to spill his blood. The blood of a demon lord is a powerful thing and very useful, you see. It's a priceless reagent. You can make so many things out of it. A wondrous blade, for example, that can turn even a wardstone to dust.
Like the purple crystal knife we found in the ruins, which we then later used to modify the wardstone. That was made out of Discari's blood, which is why the storyteller saw memories of Discari's childhood when he tried touching it. Wow, yeah, that all ties together. Which actually kind of seems to imply that all these purple crystals we see floating around are also crystallized demon blood? Including the one that we found in the storyteller's tower that he was studying, which could in turn explain why Sox and Nocticula both have vested interest in it, since they are, of course, both demon lords as well. So based on the experiments we're seeing here, and the general overall context of what we have observed thus far, it sounds like a Rielu, who has already discovered how to transplant demon powers, is looking to take it up a notch, to possibly convert a mortal creature into a full-fledged demon lord. Alright, Suture. Tell Rielu we said thanks for the gift. We'll see her around.
I will. Farewell.
Well, this has been fascinating because we found far more answers than I actually expected us to. A lot of pieces are suddenly fitting together. Let's have a look at that lexicon. Yeah, this is promising. The first half of the Lexicon of Paradox lies before the commander. That which we call a rift is, in fact, close to the complete opposite. A stitch, or a tie. The secrets of the architect of the world wound laid bare. All that remains is to absorb them, make sense of them, grasp their true meaning. The letters written by the hand of Arilu Vorlesh appear to have a life all their own. A moment's inattention and they begin to disperse, changing shape and moving toward the edge of the page, as though they are planning to leap off. Oh, well that's mildly disconcerting. Read harder? Vex's attention focuses on a couple of words that seem to have only just swapped places. The words freeze, as though they never moved at all. But out of the corner of his eye, the commander sees several words on the other side of the page begin a discreet game of leapfrog. But wait, we could still read the contents when it was floating text. Can we just do that? Yeah, that's just silly. That works. We'll read it. Lexicon of Paradox, Part 1. On the nature of rifts. That which we call a rift is, in fact, close to the complete opposite. A suture or a tie. It is the place where two planes are stitched together, enmeshed at the point of merging. Two types of rifts are encountered on the borders of the world wound. Short-term natural rifts and stable engineered rifts. The latter allow entire armies to pass freely between the Abyss and Golarion. They were created at points where the fabric of reality formed a specific type of fold, where the material plane is closest to the Abyss. More information about these folds of reality in former Sargeras can be found in the Temple of Stone manuscripts in the ruined city of Eyes. Some of my own notes are also held there. I shall only make passing reference to them here. At the moment of writing, 5 of these folds have been identified. The most significant one was located near the Threshold Fortress, and it was that which made the world wound possible. The second most significant rift, the Maiming of Eyes, marks the ruins of the famous city. The third rift, the Gates of Midnight, is hidden in the Midnight Fane. The fourth, the Harrowing, leads to my personal laboratory. And finally, the fifth, the blood of Pelura, is located near the Sarkorian shrine. All of the rifts within the perimeter of the wound function as a single system. In a way, they are like a single entity, or offshoots from a single root. This means that closing them separately is impossible. They will disappear only when the source is uprooted. The main rift, that which some people call the last threshold, although it is in fact the true and original world wound. The wound cannot be closed using ordinary methods. The very manner in which it was opened protects it from interference. The only means of closing it requires. This is the last surviving page of a book that has been ripped in two. All the other pages are missing. Of course they are. Like I said, anything we could use to potentially spoil her plans would have been carefully removed from this thing before she ever risked handing it over to us. Right off the bat here, the use of the word suture as a synonym for rift does seem to reinforce the idea that Suture is more than what he seems. He's not just a cut-up and stitched back together dretch. There must be more than meets the eye to him. Again, likely another one of Arilu's early experiments. Perhaps not as far along as us, but obviously of some importance. And then aside from that, we've also got the list of five other portals here. The one in Threshold Fortress being the original wound, and then 4 others which spawned off of that. The one in Eyes, which we know about, of course. That's the one that the Crusade is ultimately trying to march on. Though it does seem at this point like that would not actually get the job done. We'd have to go to the final threshold, or the last threshold. But then we've also got the Gates of Midnight in the Midnight Fane. And that's the Realms of Nocticula. So again, that ties Sox and Nocticula into this whole thing, plus the Storyteller. And the Blood of Pelura kind of catches my attention because we just went, as part of our Trickster quest, to that mysterious Sarkorian graveyard, where we did see that constellation door we couldn't interact with. That might be the Sarkorian Shrine. Which just leaves the Harrowing. And that might actually be where we are now, her personal lab. We did find a note all the way back in Canabris about trying to establish your own, like, pocket dimension. I wonder if that... Oh, we learned something. Let's check that out. Oh, +1 DC on conjuration spells. Fair enough. Completely useless to us, of course. An unsettling light twinkles from the crystal. Lines of mysterious magical patterns spread out around it. Buckler of Ray Negation. +4 Buckler, which grants a +5 bonus against ranged touch attacks. Very straightforward. Potentially useful if we actually had a Buckler wielder. Though I suppose we could toss this to Cam. Locked door, right. Likely connects to wherever this slab is physically located. We'll save the rift for last. Oh, and that's another projector.
Day 20, Farast 4606. Experiment, the Suture. Subject, former Arachne subjected to extreme exposure when passing through the world wound. As a result of this exposure, the demon was reborn as a dretch, a unique event in demonology. The reborn demon also acquired serious malformations, which did not respond to standard treatment methods. Objective: to assess the threat to other demons to stabilize passage through the world wound. The survival of the subject is also desirable, for the purposes of further observation.
Interesting. Right, okay, so Suture was one of her early experiments. But theoretically not the same as us? He was just an early demon. She tried to pass through the original world wound before it was stabilized, which would be the threshold. And then later, once she actually managed to stabilize a portal, spinning off of the threshold, that would be the portal in Eyes. So where did the other 3 portals come in? I mean, obviously one was for her lab. But we've also got the one in Midnight Fane, and the one at Pelura's Blood. So did she create those, or was that someone else?
Well, well. It seems that someone has been meddling with my projector without permission. Again. How many times have I told you not to do that, I made this recording for the sole purpose of telling you that when I return, I shall be very, very angry.
Well, that's even more intriguing, because I think that's the first time we've seen a Relu pre-transformation. Yeah, she was just a normal person wearing robes. That could be from before all the business with Discari and the World Wound. Which begs the question, who did she make that recording for? It couldn't have been Suture, because Suture was the result of her early World Wound experiments. And she was already in half-demon form in the recording about the Suture's creation. Maybe the storyteller. Hey, we've got another crystal. Transformation. Well, we will immediately give that a gander.
Day 28. Colustrill. 4606. Experiment. Transformation. Subject. Arilu Vorlesh. Human female. With a clear affinity for arcane magic. Objective: to fuse a mortal soul with the essence of the abyss. Predicted result: the formation of a full-fledged half-demon on the basis of a mortal being. Potential risks: unknown. The death of the subject is extremely likely. I will continue to monitor the experiment for as long as I can.
Okay. So that was the moment she became what she is now. Which means we can actually put these crystals in rough order. The first one obviously being the Secrets of Great Sorcery, followed by this one. Then the one about creating Suture, because Suture was present for at least one of the other crystals. Right, she asked Suture to help her when she was experimenting on that half-fiend she killed. You found some interesting papers. Turning around, you see Sakopanoth right behind you. The Lexicon of Paradox of all things. The discovery of the century. We should show it to the Council, otherwise we'll make no progress for another 100 years. Socks, buddy. Don't do that. How long have you been there? Oh, you're so adorable when you're angry. The demon winks playfully. Well, let's not waste any time. The Council is waiting for us, and I can't wait to see their faces when they read this. Join us quickly, and bring along the lexicon. Giving you one last smile, heavy with meaning. Sakopanoth disappears. And look at that, we've got another meeting of the Wardrobe Council. Which should be interesting, given what we now know about Sock's involvement in this. I mean, not a lot, but we do know that he was trying to steal the secrets of the demon blood crystals from Nocticula, only to have Storyteller swipe it out from under both of them. Ah, right. And this just reconnects to the old wing, yes. That makes sense. Yep, see? We've still got the smoldering remains of those Uliadru, the Uliadru we slew earlier, along with the Bardic Shadow Demon. Well, hello there. Clearly crystalline Drachne. That certainly smacks of an optional area boss, which implies that there'd be something really good beyond it, so obviously we're going to try to take it down. Oh, and of course we've also got mythic ranks to distribute, but I'm holding off on that until I know exactly what I want to do with those. Here we go. Oh, twin Mariliths. That's no good.
Cover me, all right?
Ah, this thing's not so tough.
Retreat is not an option.
Oh. 0 health, but not dead. So I think we're looking at another Phoenix moment here. Which would actually imply that the Shadow Demon Bard was also hopped up on Demon Lord blood. Oh, this might actually be the origin of the super demons. Wow, you suck. And he's back. Ah. Well, worth a shot. And we're done. Once again, not much of a challenge, but that is just a testament to how powerful we have become. Ooh. Lock Picker Kit +2. I believe that is an upgrade for Waljeff. Where are you? There you are. Granted, that's just a net +1 on specific skill checks, but I will happily take that. And then we also pulled White Dragon. A druid-friendly +5 white dragonhide breastplate, which grants the wearer a cold aura and cold resistance 30. Oh, but cold aura is 2d6 indiscriminate damage to all living creatures within 5 feet of the wearer. That is less than ideal, because it means that it's more or less incompatible with riding, or any sort of close quarters teamwork. Anyway, one more stop and I think we're done here. Let's head back up top. We cleared that hallway, right? I think we did. I'll double check that a little later. But for now, I know there's something we have to do upstairs. We need to crack one more shadow seal, which is this one right here. Hey guys, what's up? Are you still looking for a way out? We tried and never found anything. Cool. I guess I will talk to you later. And nothing from you. So I guess we'll skip right to you. The barrier surrounding the frozen angel shimmers disconcertingly. The barrier appears to have been created from the essence of the abyss, and reinforced with spells repelling any living creature not of this dark place. You see a beautiful silver-haired woman whose face displays unusual, heavenly tranquility. Now you can get a good look at her wings. One looks strong and is covered in white feathers, just as you would expect of an angel. But the other wing, it looks like a framework of mismatched bones, with a grimy purple substance stretched across instead of webbing, and it is covered in something akin to scabs or strange scales. The angel awakens and unexpectedly inclines her head in greetings. I do not know who you are, stranger, but thank you for freeing me. I am Targona, blade of Iomede's heavenly host. My captivity, though I was ignorant of it, lasted so long. Targona, I know you. You're Larry's sister. Everyone thought you died in Canabras. How'd you end up here? I was brought here from the brink of death. I had been fighting the Baelor Darazand alongside a troop of crusaders when we were struck by the Echo of Discari, a demon of terrifying power and cunning, and an old enemy of mine. All my comrades perished, and the two demons set upon me like predators savaging a bird. The Echo ripped off my wing and left me to die among the bodies of those I had failed to protect. And then she appeared, the architect of the world wound. The angel's gaze darkens. Sometimes I am amazed at the vast power, terrifying or benevolent, that can reside in a mortal. However, Arilu is no longer mortal. She brought me here. She treated me as much as she could, or as much as she deemed necessary. I can hardly remember those first days in the laboratory. Pain, strange magic, purple flames flickering around me. Arilu spent hours casting spells over me. I was chained the whole time, though I was too weak to fight or flee. There was nothing else for me to do but talk to her, and to try to glimpse inside that black soul. I don't know what I hoped to find in there. Perhaps the smallest glimmer of light, hope that all of this could be remedied. All I saw was twilight, A veil of arrogance and secrets that Harilu used to keep herself separate from the world. Her thoughts were occupied by some grand experiment. I was of little interest by comparison. When she had finished her work, she put me into a deep sleep. A healing sleep, she said. It was necessary to allow my new, abominable wing to settle in. I have been in that sleep until now. A grand experiment, you say? Something more important than fusing demon parts onto angels? I don't suppose she happened to let slip any details about that grand experiment, did she? You did say you talked to her, right? She wanted to perfect her accursed wound. The second opening, she called it. The rift was to be larger and more stable, opening a road to Golarion from new abyssal realms. What shocked me is that she talked about the disastrous consequences of her plan with total equanimity, as though they were minor details that were but a distraction from the experiment itself. Yeah, I get that. I also know that her experiment required a mortal soul, perhaps as a sacrifice, in some dark rite that would siphon the mortal's life force and use it for perverse ends. Which would explain the phylactery, right? I heard, or rather pieced together from what I overheard, that the soul belonged to a child. Harilu, like many demons and demonic spellcasters, has the ability to wrest souls from their bodies and contain them in special vessels. The vessel containing that soul was delivered to the laboratory soon after I was brought here. Harilu was unusually distressed that day. She talked to me more than usual. That's when I learned the details of her plan. I was aghast when I realized that she was discussing the soul of a child, a soul which she likely wished to sacrifice. I cannot describe the horror I felt. I don't know about that. I mean, obviously she's very, amoral when it comes to pursuing her experiments and trying to achieve whatever her ultimate goal is, but the soul of a child, that might imply it was someone she actually knew, considering that she was emotional about it. Possibly even her own child? Possibly someone killed by the old Sarkorians, which would certainly help explain why she mounted this apocalyptic campaign against them. It is a bit cliché, but everything she's doing now could just be part of a grand experiment intended to somehow return her loved one to life. Though, I mean, this feels like a bit much in a world where you also have things like raised dead or reincarnation. Maybe we're looking at like a Scarlet Witch situation. Not just trying to bring back a loved one, but also to then upgrade them or herself into something so powerful that they could never be threatened again. Hey, what's going on with your wing? It is the work of Harilu. The wing is fully functional. Its creator isn't known as the architect for nothing. But it frightens me. There is more of the abyss in this wing than in the eyes of an enraged Baylor. If I were you or your commander, Angel, I would immediately order the demonic wing be amputated. It is corruption that has been placed inside you. The consequences of that will be inescapable. You might be right, Knight, and my superiors in heaven may make the same decision. Finian's voice trembles. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry this happened to her. It's terrible. She should never have been... No living creature should ever be treated like that. Keep it together, Finn. So hey, no offense, but why didn't you just, like, pray for help and call more angels? That's a thing you guys can do, right? Even the goddess cannot hear me within these walls. This place, it belongs to the abyss, not the material plane. I could not call for help, only pray for a miracle. Perhaps your arrival is the answer to that prayer. I know what it's like, being cut off from everything you know, from everything that makes you who you are, whispers Urushalei. The angel's gaze stops on the succubus, and flames blaze up in her eyes. Demon! Weren't you one of my captors? The succubus instinctively bares her teeth in response, and hisses threateningly. Her claws grow long, and suddenly, you see the old Urushalei, the fearsome demon of the abyss. Stop it! Don't even think of hurting each other! The elf girl's words diffuse the tense atmosphere, like cold water thrown on a fire. Forgive me. I spent too long slumbering and my self-control is diminished. I should not have been so hasty to deem your companion an enemy. Yeah, don't mention it. Happens all the time. Happens to me, too. So, I don't suppose you can tell me anything else useful about this place? Or Aurilu? Anything at all? I know only a little. Aurilu once let it slip that this refuge is where she wrote the Lexicon of Paradox, the book of dark magic containing the secret to the world wound's creation. That means this place is older than the wound itself. Aurilu must have created it, at least part of it, before her great atrocity. Right, yeah, that does make sense. I was astonished at the strange way she seemed to speak of this laboratory. It was as if she despised this place, yet she tried not to show it. There was a moment when I wondered if this hatred was a sign of her contrition. But I was mistaken. Aurilu Vorlish is incapable of feeling contrite, even for a heartbeat. She is like a tempest, hurtling forward and sweeping aside everything in its path. It actually makes sense, given that this was where she hid from the Sarkorian rulers, from their cruel authority. I can see how she would come to resent it. It was her home, but at the same time, it was already a prison even before she was literally thrown into prison, because it was the only place where she could truly be herself. Outside of the lab, she had to pretend to be the Moonshine Witch, the old crone that they went to get their fix of the finest moonshine in Sarkoris, or whatever. Which apparently was true. I mean, Aberdeen was right to a certain extent there, which is also shocking. Okay, well, thanks for the intel. I've already cracked a way out. You can find it down in the lower lab. You're free to go. Free? Then let's leave here at once. May the light of Iomedae be with you. And the Stinger of Callistria with you as well. I can't believe I'm going to see the sky again. What time is it, I wonder? Morning? Afternoon? Evening? Heaven, I am coming home! Farewell, Commander! 20 years! Will my wife and son even recognize me? Are they still alive? Yeah, good luck with that, I guess. 20 years, so that would be right in the middle of the Inquisition, the Fourth Crusade. So it's been quite some time since Aurilu abandoned this place. But we still found fresh notes, the ones with the narrative blurbs. Unless she somehow planned those in advance? Okay, no idea what to do with this door. There's clearly a room back there, we just can't get through. There's no way to interact with it. So I feel like that's something... Yeah, see, even in the fade out, you can see the door is a separate object. It's not just part of the scenery. It is a separate, actual interactive door. That must be something we have to come back for. Right, and this puts us back in the desolate hovel, and we do have an entrance back into the lab. So yes, at some point we must need to come back here for some reason. Though eventually this would also become like a teleportation hub, because eventually I assume we'll crack open the front door and be able to exit there to wherever the lab lets out physically, possibly Threshold or Eyes, or her current lab. Alright folks, this has been a very intriguing episode. Obviously not the most action-intensive one. We just had that optional fight against the Crystal Duratni. But we found out a ton of important narrative. And we've also set ourselves up for even more, because once we get back to Dresden, we've got the Wardrobe Council and Socks waiting for us. Plus our reunion with Aberdeen, we have to hand over the Moonshine Jug, which I imagine will be farcical but set up for future events. And we have our staffing meeting, I think, which might technically not be done yet, so we might have to rest before that triggers. That said, we'll hit the pause button for now. I'll take another lap through the lab off screen real quick just to make sure we didn't miss anything. And we will pick up here next time as we pop back over to Dresden and tend to our other pressing business, which I am very much looking forward to. And then after that, we'll set our sights on the Ivory Sanctum. See you then. Oh, and remember, although I do love playing Pathfinder: Wrath of the Righteous, you can find out more about the game by visiting the official websites. And if you'd like to help support the channel, then feel free to push the buttons that do the things, or maybe even check out the Patreon, the YouTube memberships, or the Nexus GG page. Links are in the description.
I made this recording for the sole purpose of telling you that when I return, I shall be very, very angry.